We take every election at face value, and we'll fight every election for every square inch of territory here in Wales. We have a positive vision for what Wales can achieve, and we've shown that by being in the official opposition for the last 3 years, putting forward alternative proposals on waiting times, on the economy, on education performance, on housing. So, we're ready for an election when it comes. But I do think at this moment in time, people want to see stability and ultimately understand that there is leadership here in the Bay dealing with the challenges people face in their everyday lives.
In our top story this lunchtime, opposition parties are calling for a snap Senate election in Wales after Vaughan Gething was forced to resign as First Minister and leader of the Welsh Labour Party. Followed a walkout by 4 government ministers. In a statement, he says, in 11 years as a minister, I have never, ever made a decision for personal gain. I have never, ever misused or abused my ministerial responsibilities. My integrity matters. I have not compromised it. Well, let's speak to Kieran Jones now from Wales Online to get the latest. Hi, Kieran.
Hi there, Matt.
Just remind listeners, what is Vaughan Gething referring to there, that he's not made decisions for personal gain or abused his ministerial responsibilities?
Well, effectively, this goes right back to his campaign to become the Welsh Labour leader and thus the First Minister, which was actually the result of which was 4 months ago exactly today in March. Seems a lot longer ago, but during that campaign, he was given a £200,000 donation by a businessman called David Neal, who runs a firm called Dawson Environmental Group. Mr. Neal has previously been convicted, as of some of his subsidiary companies, for environmental offences. And on the very day that £200,000 donation was given to Vaughan Gething's campaign, the company put in a bid to build a huge solar farm in the Gwent Levels, which actually forms part of Mr. Gething's constituency. Now, he said there's no wrongdoing there because he would have no input into any decision on whether that planning application went ahead. But obviously, the combination of the two things, the convictions and the size of the donation, which was unprecedented in Welsh political kind of history, combined with the optics of that, the timing of that planning permission application, really cast a very big shadow over his whole tenure, certainly over his campaign and over his incoming. And then there's been questions around his sacking of Hannah Blythin, who was one of his ministers, a deputy minister for social partnership. She was sacked over allegations that she'd leaked a message from the pandemic, which appeared to show Vaughan Gething saying that he was deleting messages because they could be captured by FOI, which kind of went against what he'd said during the COVID inquiry. So there's been lots and lots of questions, as you say, and as he addressed in his statement, around his integrity, which he says he's not compromised, but he's nevertheless taking the steps and the decision this morning to resign, both as Welsh Labour leader and us as First Minister.
So those 4 ministers who quit this morning, Jeremy Miles, who ran against him for the leadership, and the others are also seen as allies of Jeremy Miles, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, Julie James in particular, a key ally of Jeremy Miles, and her comments in her resignation letter were very, very scathing. She said there was huge divisions in the Welsh Labour group. She said what had happened had damaged both the country and the party. And she said that his staying in power as First Minister threatens the continued existence of the devolution journey, she felt. So, she was highly critical. Mick Anthony of the Council General had served in that role previously under Mark Drakeford, a well-established figure in Welsh Labour, and Leslie Griffiths, too, the Culture and Social Justice Secretary, the other of those 4 ministers to go. So a really kind of damning series of resignations that effectively made this kind of finally untenable for Vaughan Gething, I think.
It was only almost exactly a week ago, Keir Starmer was in Wales, in the Welsh Parliament, speaking to Vaughan Gething. They seemed to be having a nice chat, listening to a choir singing, and they were all trying to give the impression that they were singing from the same hymn sheet. But there do appear to be suggestions that these repeated rows about Vaughan Gething's leadership did hit Labour, and they actually lost vote share in Wales.
Well, absolutely, because you had this extraordinary situation where Wales woke up on July the 5th to a Conservative wipeout. 27 of 32 MPs throughout Wales were Labour. But as you say, their vote share actually fell back from around 40% to 37%. And despite some senior Welsh Labour figures saying, oh, well, these issues around Vaughan Gething and donations and whatever didn't come up that much on the doorstep, the fact that there was this kind of splintering and vote share dropping to to the likes of Reform UK, it clearly wasn't all sort of rosy in the garden for Labour, even at that UK level, and even with, as you say, Keir Starmer having talks about working in lockstep with Vaughan Gething. Joe Stevens, the Welsh Secretary, saying as recently as last week that Vaughan Gething wasn't damaged goods. There was lots of kind of messages of faith from a UK level, but there were certainly questions that were being asked, particularly at a Welsh Labour level. And Vaughan Gething said in his statement today that he hoped that there could be a period through the summer. I think it was of renewal, rebuilding, and reflection. I think that he hoped he might get to this summer recess without this happening. But his colleagues have kind of thought, ahead of that recess in a few days' time, that's not suitable, and it's time to take action.
Thanks for that, Kieran. Kieran Jones there from Wales Online with the latest on the news that Vaughan Gething has resigned as Welsh First Minister after 4 of his own ministers walked out. Plaid Cymru have called for a snap Senate election. Their leader, Rhun ap Iorwerth, said the people of Wales have lost faith in the First Minister, belatedly done the right thing and resigned. The people of Wales must be given the opportunity to elect a new government, and an election must be called. Let's get some more reaction now. The leader of the Welsh Conservatives, Andrew R T Davies, joins us. Andrew, do you agree? Should there be a snap election?
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon now, should I say, after what has been a frantic morning, to say the least, during Cardiff Bay. It's almost unprecedented, obviously, what's been going on here. We need time to reflect now on the political dynamics of what exactly is going on, and the importance now of giving confidence to the people of Wales that there is credible political leadership here to deal with the matters that the people of Wales care about.
Do you agree with Plaid Cymru there should be a snap election?
Well, I think, as I said, what we need to be doing is focusing on what has gone on this morning, which are dramatic revelations of 4 ministers, should I say, resigning from the Labour government. If, obviously, the political revelations cannot be resolved here today, then obviously the logical conclusion would be that there should be an election. But I think we're a long way from that at the moment. And I think what's important is that the people of Wales recognise that there is leadership here to actually pick up the reins and give them the solutions that they face in the challenges of their everyday lives.
How distracting has this been for people, just for people who are not in Wales? Just the extent to which, almost from the moment Vaughan Gething became leader, he seems to have been embroiled in one row to another.
Well, I think that's the key for this, because ultimately what's gone on here is about honesty, transparency, and accountability. And the honesty about whether it was sensible to take the donation in the first place for his leadership campaign of £200,000, which is a mega donation in Welsh terms to a leadership campaign that was held through the winter months. The transparency over the dismissal from his cabinet of a deputy minister, junior minister within that cabinet, and the lack of evidence provided about that dismissal. And now the genuine concerns that people feel that this has been tried to be brushed under the carpet by the Labour movement and has exploded into the wide open world for us all to see, warts and all.
I mean, there does seem to be some suggestions that it has hit Labour support. In the general election, they went down from just over 40% to 37%, but you, the Conservatives, went from having 33% of the vote to just 18%. So you seem to still, despite all of this chaos, the Conservatives still seem to be doing worse.
Well, I would point to the fact that when we were on the doorsteps, many people were pointing, sadly, to some of the discrepancies and transgressions that had gone on in Westminster, and pointing to the good work that Welsh Conservatives have been doing here in the Senedd. We are the party that has driven the vote of no confidence. It was our motion that was voted on that put the vote of no confidence in the First Minister. It's our motion tomorrow that has brought forward the evidence today. But let's not forget that that evidence that's been released from the First Minister today highlights that the government as a whole was actually involved in these WhatsApp messages that the COVID inquiry required. And so it's not just the First Minister, it's other Labour colleagues who were in government at the time who sat on these messages that could have brought some comfort to the COVID-bereaved families in trying to understand how they lost loved ones during the COVID pandemic.
How worried are you there might be a snap election? Because you and your Conservative colleagues could be wiped out.
Well, no, we take every election at face value, and we'll fight every election for every square inch of territory here in Wales. We have a positive vision for what Wales can achieve, and we've shown that by being in the official opposition for the last 3 years, putting forward alternative proposals on waiting times, on the economy, on education performance, on housing. So, we're ready for an election when it comes. But I do think at this moment in time, people want to see stability and ultimately understand that there is leadership here in the Bay dealing with the challenges people face in their everyday lives.
Andrew R T Davies, leader of the Welsh Conservatives, thanks very much for joining us this lunchtime on the news of the resignation of the Welsh First Minister, Vaughan Gething.